Hi. I used to get a screen when it was recording in progress right in the middle of things, and I had to press got it, and I just realized I didn't have to do that this time. Well, tomorrow is a day, I believe it's called Veterans Day, is it not? Isn't that true? Okay, I'm going back in time a little bit here. We used to call it Armistice Day. Well, we didn't, but my parents did, and their generation called it Armistice Day. The 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, peace was declared in what we call World War I. And a tragic war finally came to an end, where poisons were used and gases and all sorts of stuff. And it was a stalemate for years, and it would have gone on for I don't know how long, because it was just fought in these trenches, which people were not only sitting in these trenches for protection before they went over the top of them to fight and possibly just, come up into a hail of bullets and so forth. But they stayed in there, and it became their home, sort of. They had little huts and stuff inside there, and they were living inside these trenches. And it would have just gone on like that, and gone on like that, and gone on like that, because neither side was willing to capitulate. But finally, it came to an end, and for the life of me, I don't remember why it came to an end. It just did. I'm sure somebody ran out of ammunition, or they ran out of oil, or they ran out of something, and or people to send out into the battle, and they finally just said, "Let's don't do this anymore. Let's find a peaceful way out of this," and they didn't. And it actually did occur on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 19, something like that. 1918? Yeah. Okay, so that was a while back. And yet, that was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And it was just going to be the end of it. Now, I'm talking about this only because it's occurring tomorrow. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. Now we call it Veterans Day, and we remember. Oh, and when I was a child also, there were these little, I don't know what they were made out of, paper or something, because plastic wasn't big then, made out of paper or cloth or something, little poppies that people would pin to themselves to remember this day. Do any of you remember that? Does anybody remember getting poppies or seeing them? You go into a drugstore, and there'd be a card up on the wall of poppies in a round circle all the way around, and you could buy one for a nickel or something like that, and put it on you, or children would get them probably for free and try to sell them, so they could buy bazooka gum or something. So that was a while back. That's not really what I meant to talk about today. I just thought it's necessary to remind ourselves and to remember that it is a day of remembrance of people who served our country. Some of them died in battle, some of them didn't, but all of them, still to this day, when we find out someone has been in one of the military services, we say, "Thank you for your service." And that's a good thing. And how many are veterans? You are, aren't you, Neil? Yeah, so thank you for your service, Neil. And here's a poppy for you to remember it. Okay, having said all that, what I really mean to talk about is something that in a way fits in with that, the idea of military victories and military losses and so forth, and just the whole military complex. But also it fits in with our daily living. And it fits in with what happened on Tuesday. and how we all are now preparing for the next event in our life. As I like to say, more will be revealed. It just will, and that's what we have to grin and bear, however we look at it. And I really believe in and trust the voting system, and the people decided. A lot of people cast their vote and decided who they wanted, and I'll go along with that. I may not really agree with it, but mainly it's I don't agree with it because I don't know what's happening next. If I just calm down and wait, I'll be all right. So more will be revealed. What I meant to talk about, and I thought about all week, even before any of this occurred or is about to occur, is an axiom that we use, and it is also an axiom that is so old that it has been used in every religious belief, every country, every kingdom, every empire that you can think of. Every one. On both continents, on all continents. It has just been that way because it exists in Asia. It shows up in the Vedantas and so forth from India. It shows up in Babylon. It shows up in India. It shows up, you name it. Just go through the list, and this one true little kernel of truth comes through, and that is, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. In some form, every religion, every continent that you can think of has this idea. Now, the way Jesus expressed it was, there are two things that complete the law. Love God with all your heart and soul and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And so we hear this and we all know it. There's practically not anyone that you couldn't say, have you ever heard this before? And they'll say, yeah, I've heard that, or yeah, I practice that as much as possible. That's the little trick in it. And I started thinking about it. Yes, I know about this. And yes, I practice that when it's convenient. True, I do. I find myself being a humanist to a great degree who believes that these things this should be practiced. But I don't necessarily practice it all the time. But I'm getting better about it. I'm getting better about having it not only as an axiom or as a truism that is just sitting out there in my collection of axioms and truisms, and using it when it's convenient for me and so forth. But I had an occurrence happen this week where I had to make a decision concerning somebody else. And I talked to that person, and that person agreed with me. Yeah, that needs to be done. And whatever you come up with, I'll be happy with it. So I put pencil to paper and I started clicking some numbers around. And as we got closer and closer to a decision, I realized I've got to sit here and decide, would I be happy with this conclusion? Would I be happy with this myself instead of just telling somebody else this is what we're going to do and hoping they agreed with me? And if I come up with the numbers that we both decided on, and we decided on some percentages, and then it came down to numbers, and I looked at those numbers and I asked myself, using the golden rule, would I be satisfied with this? And I thought the other person will probably, if I give them these numbers, will agree with me and say, yeah, okay, well, that's what we decided. Yeah, go ahead and do that. But will that person be truly happy and satisfied and okay in their mind, or will I have created something that could slowly but surely rise from a little spark into an ember, into a flaming fire of resentment. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to say, if that's the occurrence that I think that could happen to me, why would I want that to happen to anyone else? So I made some changes, brought them back to that person and said, here's what I came up with. And that other person said, oh, good. I agreed to that, but when I put a pencil to the numbers, I was thinking, why did I agree to that? And now you've showed me something that I think is more of a compromise, and I just love you for it. And I thought, man, I did something using the golden rule. Now that's it. So we've got this golden rule, and we know it, and we may even have a placard that we put on our wall or somewhere that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But is that just, something that we just say, but we don't really feel it or we don't really practice it? So I decided that what needs to happen in my life and hopefully in all our lives is to practice this. But practicing is okay if you're doing it almost subconsciously. If you're only doing it consciously, then you wait until something occurs where you need to use it, and then you pull it out. And you look at it and you decide, like I did, okay, what do I do according to this? Could I live with this? Would this is something that I would want them to do unto me? Or do we do it just subconsciously so that it just is occurring all the time in everything we do? You know, this idea of that Jesus used of love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and I've added, and every breath you take, and love your neighbor as yourself. There is a guy, he's a humanist chaplain at Harvard University. His name is Greg Epstein, or Epstein, I'm not sure, but Epstein, I'm going to say. He says that this is a concept essentially no religion misses entirely, but not a single one of these versions of the Golden Rule requires a God. Not a single one, if you just single out the love your neighbor as yourself. Doesn't require anything religious in it whatsoever. It is a humanist idea. That's his point of view, because he's a humanist chaplain at Harvard. The only one that does is the one that Jesus uses when he ties love God with all your heart and soul and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. He said that those two requirements sum up everything. A lot of people would say we don't even need the first half if we've got the second half down really well. Well, yeah, on this plane of existence, that's very true. Let's go a little deeper. Let's go, like I said, to that place in our mind where we don't forget it at all, where it is a constant reminder of ourselves as to who we truly are and as to who everyone else truly is. You see, that's the basic essence of the unity movement. That's why we call it unity. We unify with all other people, places, and things. We like the Native Americans, or as the tribe that I'm a member of calls the first Americans, said they didn't practice the idea of personal possessions. Everything was owned collectively. And their thinking was a collective, unified way of being. So I suggest that we go in our minds to that and don't have an us and a them. Eliminate that from our consciousness and have simply a unified vision and version of everything that exists and everyone that exists. If we personally want peace, and we state that as one of our things, let there be peace in my time. In my time. Let's go further and say, let there be peace in everyone for all time. If we can start holding that as a vision, then we are truly wanting for ourselves exactly what we want for other people. Right now, there is so much strife and hatred and so much militaristic action going on in the world, and innocent people are being damaged and hurt and destroyed. Let's back up from that. Who is going to make that come to an end? You, me, all of us together can bring peace to the world. All of us can bring that idea of the war that ends all wars. And let's change that to the peace that ends all wars, the love that ends all wars, the understanding of the unified vision of everyone on this planet. Whether they are documented or not, that makes no difference whatsoever. What is that all about? Let's try to take a view that everyone is a personal, individualized expression of the same living spirit. Let's remember that. A personalized, individualized expression of one thing. Just like the hand that you have is a personal, individualized expression of who you are. It's not all of who you are, but it is yours. That's an axiom that Paul was trying to teach as a metaphor. Let's remember that everything is important in the body of pure spirit. Everything is the same. To do that, we have to get to a place where we have within us, as an active, moving, primary force, the golden rule. If we get there, then everything that emanates from us is the idea of, I want to do for you as I would want to have done for me. That means not necessarily that I want to give you in order for me to lose something. It just means that I want you to have in your life all the goodness that I want to have in my life. I don't necessarily have to give up anything to have that. I don't necessarily have to place upon another person anything to have that. All we're asking for is for the recognition in ourselves and the recognition in everyone else that we are individualized expressions of oneness. Oneness. So once we get there and we're in that place, let's hold that, like I said, as a primary thought. Then go beyond that thought into a primary feeling and combine the two into a primary way of living, a primary way of life. Remembering that we have things that are different about one another, but that's okay. It's perfectly okay to have these differences of opinion and so forth. That's the way the human mind might work. But that doesn't mean anyone is wrong or that I am supposed to have contention with them at all whatsoever. Eliminating contention. No longer living, being a part of the world, but being a part in it and not of it. As was described, be in the world, but not of it. Meaning, let's not live our lives where everything is viewed from a relative way of looking at things. Black and white, good and bad, this and that, you and me, other, self and other. Eliminate that and live in a world that is more absolute. A world where there isn't God the good, as though there could be a God the bad, but just God is good. God the loving, not necessarily being there being a God that is hating or angered. I'll allow that to go away and just have God is. God is. Love is. God is. And once we get to that place and hold that in our minds and our hearts, then we can go forward in life from right now. Right now. We don't have to look back into the past and remember all of our mistakes or remember all the things that happened to us that glorified us in any way. We just live right here, right now, and move forward in life, pure in the sense that we are seeing things the way God intends us to see them. I call it God. You call it whatever you wish, but that's just our idea of the oneness, the pure spirit of all things. I'm not even going to say if we can do this or if we do this. We must do this. We must do this. We must return to the oneness that we all are. When we do, then we will be practicing something that was given down to all ages and all people. The idea of oneness. Loving our neighbor as ourselves. No ifs, ands, or buts intended in it whatsoever. It's just do it. Do it here. Do it now. God bless.